As always, donate to Jumpstart. Jumpstart helps economically disadvantaged kids play team sports, which is something that's near and dear to Rachel and I's hearts. So if you go to the links in this description below, pretty much all the information that you will need to donate is there. So we really encourage you, if you can, to do so. Again, it's a great cause. We love Jumpstart. They are our charity of choice. If you can, please donate. Well, Rachel, it finally happened.
What happened?
You finally sustained an injury jacking off.
Yeah.
Show the camera. Show the camera. Rachel has what pretty much every librarian slash I would say office administration person has ever had in their life, which is a wrist brace.
Yeah,
Rachel has a wrist brace.
You know what's cool though? It has a built-in ice pack. This is a high-tech wrist brace.
What do you got the Iron Man wrist brace on right now? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's got ice pack coursing through my wrist. Dislocated my wrist, so I have to find out if I need Zach Hyman surgery or not, because that would be the surgery I would be getting. Hopefully not. But yeah, I will not be swinging a golf club for probably at least the next 3 weeks, maybe longer. And I certainly am not playing in the Stanley Cup final, unlike the Florida Panthers.
Well, if you were able to, if you were in the Stanley Cup final,
yeah,
this is your lifelong dream.
Yeah.
Would this be an injury that you'd be able to play through, you think?
So considering that I can't bend my hand farther than 20 degrees, I would say no, but alas, I don't have the painkillers that NHL players do.
I was going to say, how many opiates have you taken today?
Well, I've actually taken 0. I was raw dogging this pain for a while, and then I was like, yeah, I don't think so. But yeah, no, the doctor offered me the Percocets, and I was like, yeah, I'm good, thank you. I'll just, I'll grin and bear it. I'm gonna tough it out, and let me tell you, bad idea.
I don't know, man. Get some of those perks going. That could be good. Now the thing is, Rachel, you said that the Florida Panthers are in the Cup final. Listen, we've basically said this exact same thing for the last 2 years in a row now. But I want to know why it took this long for Paul Maurice to realize how he wants a handshake line to go out.
Yeah, so I think it's also important to point out, the narrative of tax-free state, yeah, it's there, it exists. But, that's not the only reason Florida's in the Cup final, and it certainly, I think you and I can both agree, was not the only reason Tampa Bay was in the Cup final 3 straight years either. Does it play a factor? You're an idiot if you don't think it does. Does the NHL need to address it? Absolutely. But the reality is Carter Verhaeghe is on a sweetheart deal. Evan Rodriguez is on a sweetheart deal. They picked up Gustav Forsling on waivers. That, maybe, you know what, Mike? I have a hot take. Maybe Bill Zito and Julian Brisebois are good at their jobs.
They could be.
Maybe they're ruthless. Maybe they're ruthless and, yeah.
They just might as well be. But I want to know why. Listen, I guess if you make the Cup final 3 straight years, you're given license to feel yourself, much in the same way as how you hurt your wrist. And that was a masturbation joke, just in case you didn't pick up on that, Rachel.
We are off the rails, and
I saw you had a stone face when I said that. I'm like, she didn't clock that. I
clocked it. I
need to explain that. I need to explain it.
Explain it.
But I'm very interested in this sort of I don't even call it sanctimonious. Just in this, I will say, in this sanctimonious sort of personal tour that the Florida Panthers, specifically Paul Maurice, is taking after eliminating all their opponents. In Toronto, he comes out and he says, you know those games where they got absolutely freaking slapped by us? No, they're actually really close. And you guys are going to be so hard. Don't be so hard on them. And then they eliminate the Carolina Hurricanes, who we'll get into later.
In 5.
In 5. And he goes, hey, Rod, you know how I just beat you? yeah, let's let the players have the handshake line. You know, I think like I don't get this guy, man. Like is this just an epic troll job? Is this like is he just on an ego trip to last a lifetime? Like what's going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Paul Maurice is obviously a good coach. I feel like that really can't be debated anymore. Listen, if you want to go in the handshake line, go in the handshake line. If you feel like it's only for players, don't go in the handshake line. Just to be clear, though, Rod Brindamore was a player and won the Stanley Cup as a player. So, like, I get it. If you are a guy who's never played in the National Hockey League, like Paul Maurice, and you believe the handshake line's for players only, you don't want to go in it, that's cool. You want to tell Rod that, that's cool. But if Rod, who was the captain of the Stanley Cup winning team, wants to go in the handshake line, if Craig Berube wants to go in the handshake line, if Rick Tocchet wants to go in the handshake line, are you gonna... You know what? I think Paul Maurice should go and tell Craig Berube not to go in the handshake line and see how that goes. It's a personal decision, and if you want to go in the handshake line, then you can get your respect in the handshake line. And if you don't want to go in the handshake line, then you don't got to go in the handshake line. But do we need to have a whole dissertation about it? No. Like, the amount of crap I've seen on Twitter about it, it's like, who cares? Shut up.
Oh my god! Like every time that's brought up, I was in the press room when Sheldon Keefe said, you know, we got a lot more respect in the handshake line this time, and in the moment, like that's got to be the most that's got to be the most like cuck thing I've ever heard a coach say, straight up. Like they beat us, but they were super nice after, so it was fine. Like it was,
yeah.
it was
Whereas
all
like
good.
I like what Matthew Tkachuk said yesterday. He was basically like, "Yeah, it's not a big deal. We were here last year. This is business." Like that's how you handle it. You look at it like business, and that is why the Panthers have the mentality. And I've said this on like various TV shows, but like they're willing to do things that other teams aren't. And I do think part of that is because they know they're not going to get punished the same way other teams will. But you have to give credit for them for still being willing to do it. Like in Game 3. Matthew Tkachuk chased Sebastian Aho Game 4 all the way around the ice and then suckered him twice. If that were Nazem Kadri, he'd be banned for the rest of the playoffs. But Matthew Tkachuk knew he wasn't going to get suspended, so he did it. And, like, kudos to Matthew Tkachuk for, one, recognizing he was never going to be suspended for doing that, and two, for actually doing it.
They would literally crucify him on the cross. Like they would take Nazem Kadri if he did that, put him on the cross like they did with Jesus, and they would kill him if he did that. It's crazy.
I don't know, but the handshake line thing it's really stupid to me. If you want to go in it, go in. If Paul Maurice tells you why I'm not going in, cool, but like don't tell somebody else they can't go in it. Like I think that's dumb.
It's just like it's not even that. Like I don't care about the handshake line. It's the fact that Paul Maurice is telling people like Paul Maurice is
such a troll.
Like it's got to be a troll. Like, and he's done this after every series. Like with Toronto, like he started the whole like the media is too hard on the Leafs. Like we're still talking about it now.
Which is false. That's
Brad
a lie.
Tree Living. No, I know. Brad Tree Living met with reporters on Thursday, and that was still a topic of conversation. There's been a whole playoff round as like the Leafs haven't played in a whole playoff round now.
Yeah,
like,
it's been a week and a half.
And we're still talking about it because Paul Maurice brought it up.
And by the way, Brad Tree Living, kudos to him for being like, no, we were terrible.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Like, that was the first, other than Matthew saying, like, too many passengers, that was the first member of the Toronto Maple Leafs organization who was just like, no, we were bad. Like, we were bad. I was like,
Matthew's saying too many
okay.
passengers, but not saying myself included, was definitely didn't rub me the right way, I'll say.
But at least he said it.
At least he said it, yeah.
And you know what? You know what he didn't say, Mike?
What?
We learned some lessons.
Oh, well, good. Thank the Lord. Although,
honestly,
if John Tavares...
I'll take the passengers over the learned lessons. So,
if John Tavares was at the World Championship this year, he would have said it again, 100%. Especially considering the outcome.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Maurice, like, you know what? You want to go in the handshake line, go in the handshake line. You don't want to, don't. It's not. You're not the handshake police,
He
and
certainly
neither
thinks
is
he
anybody
is.
else.
He certainly thinks he is. All right. Well, speaking of the team that Florida beat, I think we need to have a conversation about the Hurricanes.
I like it. Okay, let's do it.
Like the Carolina Hurricanes, they've won one game they've made the Eastern Conference Final like a billion years in a row. They've had a 13 game losing streak in the Eastern Conference Final before they finally won.
14.
Oh, it was 14. Sorry.
It was
Sorry.
14.
Sorry. I thought I said 14, then I was like, no, I must have that wrong because that's way too many. So it has to be 13. Nope.
It was 14. They are 1-16.
That's legitimately
Almost
insane.
as bad as the Leafs' playoff record in elimination games with the core
Yeah.
four.
Like
Almost as bad.
we talk about how is it even possible that this happens to the Leafs? Like, well, obviously the Canes have gotten farther than the Leafs have in our lifetimes, or like what it feels like our lifetimes since we're like 6 years old. But like, this is first of all, what are the odds of that happening? You play 16 games in the conference final, you win one of them.
2.6%.
And does that not?
Yeah, I ran that math.
That's amazing. Does that not tell you something about the state of your team? Because this is a team that has always had very good players. Like I in the NBA, people say a lot in terms of discourse, like fans bring up, it's like, oh yeah, man, this guy's the LeBron James of Paul George's, or this guy's the, like Drew Holiday, for example. Like he's the Russell Westbrook of John Stockton's, like it's like stuff like that, right? Where it's like he's a pretty good player of a very good player, like he's like that kind of version.
He's 80% of that player.
Yeah, like I look at the Hurricanes and I compare them to a guy like Patrick Marleau in his prime. Like I think Patrick Marleau was pretty successful. He made a cup final like 1 year. He made plenty of conference finals. He racked up the points. He was very good, very successful. But he was never like a superstar. Like you never were talking about
Won
like
an Olympic gold medal.
Won Olympic gold medal, exactly. I think he won 2. Didn't he not win 2? Didn't he? Was he not in
the 14 team?
Was he in Sochi?
I don't think he was on Sochi.
Oh, okay. Well,
he was definitely on Vancouver though.
He was. Oh yeah, he was definitely in Vancouver. They had it was Heatley, Thornton, and Marleau on the line. Like it was amazing.
That was a sick line too. That was the third line.
Yeah, incredible. But
the fourth line was literally freaking Nash.
It was like Rick Nash. I'm pretty sure it was Rick Nash, prime Corey Perry, and prime Ryan Getzlaf was the fourth line.
Yeah, that was the fourth line. Literally the
incredible.
Fourth line.
But I think so Patrick Marleau, very good player. And Hurricanes legend. If we don't, lest we forget.
Yeah, that's how they got Seth Jarvis.
Thank you,
really
Kyle Dubas. Thank you so much, Kyle Dubas. They have a lot of really good players. It's like I would say, like the Hurricanes are the Wayne Gretzky's of Patrick Marleau's. Like they are the greatest mid team we've ever seen.
They have the best defensive defenseman in the league, bar none.
Yeah, in Jacob Slavin. They have
That's
a
like
lot
not
of
even up for debate.
They have a lot of very good players. Like Svechnikov, Andrei Svechnikov, very good player. Seth Jarvis, like you just mentioned, very good player. Sebastian Aho, very good player. List goes on. But none of those guys are superstars. None of those guys are like the kind of player that can take over a game. And they've never taken over a game.
You know what's absolutely bananas, though?
What?
Is there's a very real chance that the Carolina Hurricanes, without Mikko Rantanen, get just as far as the Dallas Stars with Mikko Rantanen. Like, and that's the thing is, so I thought Rod Brindamore made a really good point this week after being eliminated, and that was after everything that had happened. If a lot of people forget, they lost a ton of players in free agency last year. Like they lost Brett Pesce, who was Jacob Slavin's partner. That's like not an insignificant piece to lose.
And Brady Shea.
Like they lost 2 top 4 defensemen. I don't even think that's like even a debate at this point.
No, they lost a lot of guys.
Yeah. Then you lose Marty Necas in a trade. You get Mikko Rantanen. He doesn't want to re-sign. So you get Logan Stankoven and a whack of draft capital. and yet they still make the conference final. And I think Rod Brindamore is right in his assessment of, I think a lot of us thought that Carolina was probably going to take a step back this year, and it would be the Rangers and the Devils that won the division. Obviously, the Caps won the division. But with all the pieces that Carolina lost, I don't think anybody had them picked to get to the conference final this year. Certainly after they traded Rantanen, nobody had them getting to the conference final this year. And so, yeah, is it disappointing that they get to the conference final and they still bow out? I'm sure they're disappointed. But if you look at the teams in the conference final, Florida, 0 prospect cupboard, 0 draft picks. Edmonton, 1 prospect, 0 draft picks. Dallas, prospect cupboard now because a lot of them have come up, and literally no draft picks.
You gotta spend money to make money.
And then you look at Carolina, one of the best prospect pools in the league, and a whack of draft picks, including almost all of Dallas's. So when you look at a team that's like set up to be very good for a very long time, there's only one team in the conference final that's set up that way, and it's Carolina. And I think that having somebody like Eric Tulsky there, they're going to use that draft capital to acquire other players. They're going to use that. Think about what 3 first-round picks can get you. Like, a lot, right? So Carolina is well-positioned, and the fact that they made the conference final while also having this entire stockpile of prospects and draft capital, they are probably the most well-set-up team for sustained success in the entire National Hockey League.
I disagree.
Okay.
And you know why? Because they play a system that's not going to win them a cup. They could have
the system needs to change.
They could have, as many draft picks as they want. They have a ton of cap space. They decided just not to spend it at the deadline, obviously because they had to get rid of Mikko Rantanen. But they were saving it for Mikko Rantanen. And then he was like, "I hate all of you, and you can all die. I'm leaving." And they're like, "Okay." That's an interesting thing for a coworker to say immediately when he joins your company. But interesting. Okay, cool.
Carry on.
But they're not. They're like that system's not going to win. Like
So
Mikko, you had Mikko Rantanen show up, and keep in mind this is a Stanley Cup winner, a proven playoff performer, one of the best, not just the best wingers in the league, one of the best players in the league, and he spent he spent basically a month there and was like, "F this, I hate this, I'm gone."
So
it does not work.
I tend to agree with you in the sense of okay, personnel wise and capital wise, they're set up for long-term success.
Yeah, definitely.
Any team would kill for that. I agree that their system needs to change, and I think they're first of all, Rod Brindamore is not getting fired. There would be a lineup of teams wanting to hire him, and frankly, I think the Toronto Maple Leafs should probably be on that list. But I think this is where Rod needs to look inward and say, I need to make an adjustment. And
do you think he's going to do that, though?
But I also think part of the reason, Rod's a smart hockey guy. That guy knows what he's doing. I think part of the reason he plays the way he does is because he doesn't have a superstar. And that you can't change your system once you acquire Mikko Rantanen midseason. It doesn't work like that. That's literally not how that works. Now, I think Eric Tulsky, as the GM, really needs to have a sit-down conversation with him. And I think Rod Brindamore needs to say, listen, I get that Tom Dundon's against trading draft capital or prospect. I need a superstar. I need a difference maker. And, I think Carolina's going to take a run at Mitch Marner. I think they should. Because if anybody has the cap space, it's them. But
yeah, that'll put them over the top in the playoffs. Sure.
Whatever. But what I'm saying is Rod Brindamore he needs to adjust his system, but I think part of the reason he hasn't is because he hasn't had a superstar this entire time. And I think if you got him a superstar from the get-go, you gave him a summer where he knew, I have a superstar coming in, I do think that we would see some significant adjustments into how Carolina plays. They can't be a shot volume team because part of being a shot volume team is a lot of those shots come from the outside and you depend on rebounds to generate the scoring chances, which is how Carolina scores its goals in the regular season. The problem that you have is when a team dedicates itself in the playoffs to blocking shots, a lot of Carolina's mentality of funneling pucks to the net, the pucks never get there, which means the scoring chances never occur. So their scoring chances are cut in half because of the style. Now, I think that's partially on Rod, and I think that's partially on the personnel, and I think that's partially, frankly, on the owner for not allowing them to trade those draft picks and those prospects, and I think that needs to change. And so I think everybody from Dundon to Tulski to Brindamore needs to maybe adjust their calculus a little bit.
An owner stepping in with something as trivial as like trading a prospect or trading like draft capital, like most owners, that's the opposite of what most owners are like. Like most owners go out and they're like, I want this big name. Go out and get him.
I consulted for one team. I worked full time for two teams, and I've consulted with another since. For the two teams I worked for full time, that happened with both teams.
Yeah, of course.
So now, what I will say is this: I haven't necessarily heard of that happening in big markets. Like I'm talking, like yeah, you can call Vancouver a big market team, but I'm talking like original six. Like Jeremy Jacobs isn't showing up saying we can't trade this guy, right? Larry Tannenbaum's not showing up saying you can't trade Easton Cowan. Like that's not happening. But there was a trade that got nixed in New Jersey. Actually, I believe there were 3 by the owner because he didn't want to trade a certain player or a prospect. And don't even get me started on Vancouver. The owner sits in the room on trade deadline. So you want to talk about involvement? There's some involvement for you. You have to sit there and run every single permutation by him. So I think they're more. What I would say is this: I find that if it's not a corporate ownership, like an MLSE or a Nashville, if it's a singular or 2 guys, they're going to be involved. So Vancouver, Carolina, Dallas to a degree is involved. Like Logan Stankoven played for Dallas's junior team, like their junior, that their owner
Tom
owns a junior
Gagliardi.
team.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you think that Logan Stankoven was traded without the blessing of Tom Gagliardi, like I got a bridge to sell you. I have oceanfront property in Idaho to sell you if you think that happened without his blessing. Yeah, I do think owners are involved, and I think in Tom Dundon's case, we're not exactly talking about a hockey guy here. I think he needs to let Eric Tulski do his job. And I think Eric Tulski's proven he's willing to be bold. He's willing to go out and take swings. And we like that entertainment. We like that fun. And let Tulski cook.
I just think the concept of like, okay, we cannot get over the hump in the playoffs. Like that is our problem. Like we've done everything. So we have like, our GM is literally like a rocket scientist. Like, he should be out there solving like the wealth gap, or he should be out there solving
cancer.
Or climate change or curing cancer. But instead he's cooking up, like 2-way contracts, in his off time. We have arguably like the best head coach in the NHL, if he's able to adapt his system, we've built a culture where everyone like buys in, like it's amazing, and yet, we cannot get over the hump in the playoffs. Let's go get Mitch Marner. That's what'll do it. I think that's so funny. I know it's very likely, but that is so funny to me.
You know what's even funnier?
What?
Yeah, so that's kind of Carolina.
Well, that's like me. That's like me being like, I cannot get a girl to like me. Oh my gosh, like I just cannot do it. I need to start wearing a fedora. Like that'll do it. Like ridiculous logic.
So there's this rumor going around from like multiple reputable sources that Mitch Marner wants to go to Florida. Okay, what is Florida? I have an article up on ESPN that talks about how the contending teams have efficient contracts at the top of their lineup, and signing inefficient contracts is the easiest way to close their contention window. $14 million for Mitch Marner would be the most inefficient contract in the National Hockey League. Like, what makes you think Bill Zito, who literally tells guys to hit the road, is going to pay Mitch Marner $14 million when he pays Barkov $10? Like, Darren, are you on drugs?
Mitch Marner going to the Florida Panthers would be, I think, truly, and I am not I am not being hyperbole. I think that would be the biggest bitch move in NHL history. I think that would be the NHL's version of Kevin Durant joining the Warriors after blowing a 3-1 lead to them in OKC.
And
like,
you know what the best part about that entire thing would be, Mike?
What?
Is his contract alone would sink their ability to contend.
Yeah. That is
immediately. He would have to sign. I said this in the article. If he were going to Florida, taxes considered, he would have to sign for $10 million. Does anybody on this planet think Mitch Marner is signing for $10 million? Like,
Mitch Marner doesn't get out of bed for 11.
Like, once again, if you do, I have oceanfront property in Idaho to sell you. And if he does decide that's what he's going to do, sell your house in Toronto, get your dad out of here, because if he shows his face anywhere, it's not going to be fun. He's going to get banned from pretty much every establishment everywhere.
I'm going to open a bar just so I can put his picture up and say he's never allowed in here.
There are I know of at least 4 golf courses, like private ones, where regardless, Paul Marner is not allowed on the property. I know of at least 4.
If Mitch Marner had scored 5 goals instead of 2 in these playoffs, that would have been reversed.
If he had participated in games 5 and 7, I don't think we're having this conversation.
That would I think that would change.
If he wasn't completely goddamn useless in game 3 in the third period, we should probably up 3-0, and they're probably not losing 4 straight.
But I think that if Mitch Marner performed even moderately successful, even moderately close to what his contract pays him, he would Paul would be allowed back on those golf courses. That's what it's like in Toronto.
Well, I don't know. Paul is banned from those golf courses because of Paul's behavior, not even because of Mitch.
No, I know that. Obviously, I'm not going to ban him because his son, chokes every year. But I'm saying, if the Leafs won a cup, if Marner helped the Leafs win a cup, I think those courses would be all right, we're giving you another shot, Paul.
Yeah, we'll give you another chance.
But instead, his son
this is the
sucks.
thing. It's Barkov makes 10. Reinhart makes 8-something. How are you going to look Bill Zito in the face and go, Mitch Marner's $2 million better than Sam Reinhart? No.
Dude, Reinhart making 8-something is ridiculous.
Reinhart is if
guy
he
scored
wasn't
60 goals.
If he wasn't in a tax-free state, he probably would have signed that year for $10.5 million, right?
Yeah, he would have if he was
about. That's cool. That's still a valuable contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mitch Marner right now his ask is 14. $6 million better than Reinhart? $4 million better than Barkov? I would make the argument that Marner's not better than Barkov at all. Never mind $4 million better. So you look at that and you go, okay, well they signed it in this cap environment. I don't care. I don't care. If I'm Bill Zito, I would look at Darren Ferris and be like, I don't care. He's not $4 million better. You're not interrupting our cap structure because your dude wants 14 or 12 or however many $million. Bill Zito has the luxury of being Barkov is paid 10. End. Done. Good day, sir. Right? In the same way, and I guess we can go here, the Toronto Maple Leafs, Austin Matthews is being paid $13.5 million. Nobody gets more. Done. Thank you. Goodbye. Right? Edmonton, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. Obviously, Connor McDavid will make a little bit more than Leon Draisaitl. But, could you imagine, let's say Mitch Marner wanted to play in Edmonton, showed up, it's I want Draisaitl money. If I were Stan Bowman, who isn't even a good GM, I would literally slide Leon Draisaitl's Hart trophies and playoff stats across the table of Darren Ferris, and I'd be like, this conversation is over. That's it. The conversation is done.
So speaking of Darren Ferris, he's on the PR kick right now because you have obviously Mitch Marner. He's going to be the biggest I would say the highest profile free agent to hit the market since Panarin did.
The belle of the ball.
The absolute belle of the ball. And then you have but that's not even a client that might be making double digits for him this year. It's not the only one. Sam Bennett is also about to hit the market. And John Shannon has reported that Sam Bennett, it's basically a 2-horse race here between staying in Sunrise, staying in Florida, and signing in Toronto with the Leafs. Signing in Toronto with the Leafs would mean that instantly Sam Bennett is euthanized by the state because he would, chicken wing someone and immediately
be suspended 10 games.
No, he would be killed. He would be thrown away in prison. You know, there would be a lethal injection involved. Sam Bennett, the stuff that he gets away with, like Jason Spezza did not get suspended once in his 19-year playing career. And one time he does something where he goes to hit someone and knees them in the head and he gets suspended 6 games.
Right, and any other team that's a 2-game suspension.
I've seen Sam Bennett literally pull a Randy Orton RKO, grab a child, Matthew Nyes, grab a child by the neck and slam him to the ice, injuring his brain, giving him literal brain damage. And Sam Bennett did not even get a minor penalty for that. He's going to come to Toronto.
If he were in a Leaf uniform and did that, that would be a 2-game suspension.
If he's in a Leaf uniform and did that, the NHL, the sniper on hand at Scotiabank Arena would take care of it, basically.
Well, so here's the thing. The common denominator between Sam Bennett's PR train and Mitch Marner's PR train is Darren Ferris.
Is that they're both being run by an insufferable idiot?
Here's the thing. I didn't say this in my article, but I really wanted to. What Darren Ferris is doing is really bordering on bad faith negotiation. It's really bordering on...
Oh, he's never done that before.
Some really bad... he absolutely screwed Taylor Hall, and screwed him out of,
Taylor Hall
a
fired
Stanley
him.
Cup, and 2, millions and millions of dollars. But... we knew Dreger was in his pocket. That's not a secret. Come on. This is embarrassing.
It was the most shameless, sort of quote-unquote source that any insider's ever had.
But now, and here, LeBrun, Chris Johnston, who is both of our, friends
yes.
with Chris Johnston, John Shannon, anybody with a brain cell and a shred of self-respect, there is nobody who is going to look you in the face and tell you Sam Bennett's worth $10 million. I have a model. Dom Luszczyszyn has a model. Him and I have been going back and forth. Do you know what our models say?
What do your models say?
Dom has his worth at $6 million. Mine has it a little more kinder at $6.4 million for Sam Bennett. Do you mean to tell me that you're going to walk into a room and say that your player is worth nearly double?
Yes, they will.
That's bad faith. That would be like, Mike, I'm going to sell you this iPhone. We all know what it's worth because the store has the price. But you have to buy it for $2,500. I would be like, no.
Does that iPhone injure people?
It might. We don't.
All right, well, it's worth it. I guess. I don't know.
So here's the thing. To win the Stanley Cup, you need to be ruthless and you need to have efficient contracts. John Tavares had nearly as many goals this year as Sam Bennett had points. And Sam Bennett recorded a career high in points. If you sign a player with a career high of 51 points to a $10 million contract, you should be dismissed that day.
This is essentially
immediately.
This would be like a 2 times as bad David Clarkson contract. This is giving me, this is absolutely, except Clarkson didn't win a cup, obviously, but this is reminding me so much of David Clarkson. A guy who could hit, a local guy coming home. He's exactly what the team needs. Take him over the hump, give him, he just got a career high, but it's not really that much, and then he immediately comes to Toronto and he will do something stupid and get himself suspended. Clarkson, in his first preseason game, stepped off the bench and got suspended for 10 games. The most Leaf thing to ever happen. Which is hilarious. And I remember, being of the opinion that this is actually good.
Stupid.
I just remember being of the opinion this is actually good for him because he won't have that much pressure and he can ease in and all that. Trying to cope myself into
Listen,
that.
If you want somebody who can elbow somebody in the head, just sign Aaron Ekblad. He's going to be cheaper. He is a better hockey player.
Aaron Ekblad to me
still elbow people in the head.
Aaron Ekblad to me is the most Detroit Red Wing of all time. Because he's clearly on the downswing right now. He just got busted for like PEDs. He's on the downswing, but he's a name, and Detroit loves their like name brand guys.
See,
Like they will sign.
I can see Seattle being a big one because Seattle doesn't have. It's a tax-free state.
Okay, yeah.
And they need a defenseman.
You'll join Brandon Montour over there.
Yeah,
get the band back together.
Okay, so I'll ask this.
Okay.
Salary not important. Who would you rather have on your hockey team, Matthew Nyes or Sam Bennett?
Matthew Nyes.
Okay, now if Matthew Nyes costs $2.5 million less, still Matthew Nyes.
I said who would I rather have on my hockey team? I said Matthew Nyes, and then you said what if he costs less? And I'm like, yeah.
And you're like, even better.
Yeah,
right?
Like what did you expect me to change my answer?
Yes, I would actually like to pay more for a worse hockey player. Hello.
Oh well, if you're giving me a discount, no, thank you. No.
I saw somebody be like, they should bridge Matthew Nyes. I'm like, you are the stupidest
they're going to.
human being. Oh,
they're going to. They're going to give him a 3 to 4 year deal, and they're going to pay him $7 million a year.
Just for the love of God, pay him 8 by 8, 8 by 8.5, 8 by 9. I don't even care. Do not bridge that guy.
But they will.
Do not bridge that guy. All right. Who would you rather have on your team? Zach Hyman or Sam Bennett?
Zach Hyman.
How much money does Zach Hyman make, Mike?
5.5. However, that's not fair. Zach Hyman was not a 50-goal scorer when he signed that contract.
I'm just gonna say this though: is Sam Bennett worth worth double Zach Hyman?
No.
Okay.
No.
Is Sam Bennett worth 1.5 Zach Hyman?
No.
That's kind
Sam
of the
Bennett.
point here.
He's hitting the market at the perfect time. He's
nobody in free agency.
There's nobody in free agency. The cap is going up. A lot of teams have money to spend, and also he's part of a team that has bullied its way to 3 straight cup appearances, potentially 2 straight cups. He is synonymous. He is now synonymous with winning. He's synonymous with toughness and pretty much everything. He's synonymous with what you need to win in the playoffs, like that sort of quote unquote like thing. And also he's hitting the market at the most economically viable time where the supply and demand are way out of whack, and also teams have never had more money to spend. So
all I'm gonna say is this:
it's working out perfectly for him.
If you plan to contend for a Stanley Cup and you sign Sam Bennett to more than $7.5 million and Mitch Marner to more than 12, you can just kiss your contention window goodbye. Just do it. You're done. And speaking of change and wanting to contend.
Mm-hmm.
Keith Pelly and Brad Treliving spoke to the media, and Brendan Shanahan is no longer a Leaf. Thoughts? Comments?
Thank God.
Brendan Shanahan.
Yes. Look.
What did you think about what Keith Pelly had to say?
Well, we talked about the end of the Shanna plan last week, right? Like we talked about that, so that's already been put to bed. It had to happen, and all that. I thought Keith Pelly, and I thought he did a great job speaking. He sounds like someone who cares, someone who likes to win. I thought it was a little odd. I understand that Brad Treliving was in Calgary to to watch his daughter graduate. Which is great.
Which is
Congratulations.
allowed, and don't be yelling at him for not being there. I think that was crazy.
However,
there was a segment of the Leafs fan base that was like, "You should miss your daughter's graduation." It's like, no,
I do find it weird that Pelly spoke. They didn't just wait until Brad got back. Why didn't they just wait till Brad so they could talk together?
I liked it.
Why?
Because I think Keith Pelly's not the CEO of the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's the CEO of MLSE, and if you noticed, there were questions about Toronto FC. There were questions about the Raptors.
Bro.
I think Keith Pelly needs to have a media scrum every 4 months. He needs to have one a quarter, because when you oversee multiple teams that have different seasons, you owe various fan bases answers.
Bro. With all due respect, asking TFC questions during that press conference, with all due respect,
I completely disagree.
Get absolutely out of here with that.
No, completely disagree.
I understand he's the MLSE
Keith, make
CEO.
yourself available at the appropriate TFC time. Otherwise, you're going to get asked questions, because if you only make yourself available for the Toronto Maple Leafs, when the Toronto Raptors won a championship in this, like, in the last decade, and TFC has won the most trophies in all of MLSE, and they have a dude who's literally, like, off and doing nothing, like, their highest paid employee is a TFC player. Keep that in mind. He makes more than Austin Matthews. Right? Actually, no, the Raptors make more.
No, the Raptors.
Yeah, the Raptors make more. But what I'm saying is like, you wouldn't be getting TFC questions if you spoke more than once a year. So
I just found it so funny. Like,
Josh Cloak didn't really have an option, because I know for a fact, he's asked for Keith Pelly for TFC stuff, and they have said no. So he goes, well, you then. I'm gonna ask at the Leafs press conference.
I know. I just found it so funny. Like I know he's like the MLSE head or whatever, like, so, or the CEO of MLSE, but like he's sitting at a podium that only has a Leafs logo on it, in front of a screen that only has a Leafs logo on it, talking with Leafs PR running the whole thing, and someone's like, "Hey, so Federico Bongiorne or whatever, is he gonna be back? Is he gonna be back next year?" Like, I just found it so funny. Like, you
have to ask those questions because
I know,
made available.
I know, but like they just fired the guy who is responsible for the last decade of like regime building in the most famous.
Just to be clear, they fired the president of TFC as well, and there was no press conference.
Yeah, which is hilarious. But like I'm saying that they just fired. I understand why they did it. You don't have to sell me on why they did it. I'm just commenting on it being funny because they just fired Brendan Shanahan. They just fired the guy who's responsible for the last decade of regime building in the most famous hockey franchise in the world. And I guess because they don't want to make this guy available or whatever, someone is asking about the soccer team. Right. That is like 0-58 this season or something. Like, it's
the solution there is make the guy available.
Yeah, but it's just like people
not hard.
I remember looking on Twitter and everyone's just like, "Oh, frick off, man! Like, we don't care. Like, we want to hear about we want to hear about Mitch Marner. We want to hear about Craig Berube's elevated role. We want to hear like blah 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 blah." And this guy's asking about like which midfielder is going to be loaned out to like some small Italian town or something. Like, it just it was very funny.
At MLSE, don't.
I am mad at MLSE.
Yeah, no, but I'm saying like the fan base get mad at MLSE. Don't get mad at the reporter for asking.
I don't think they were mad at the reporter. I'm mad at MLSE.
The most interesting thing that come out of Brad's press conference was the DNA has to change because we've done the same thing for 10 years. So the DNA has got to change. And
Finally, someone said it. Finally, someone said it. I've been waiting since I was in first year university when the Leafs bowed out to the Washington Capitals. Like, that was house money. So the next year, second university, I've been waiting since they lost in Game 7 to the frickin' Bruins. Like, to hear someone say that.
Runway. There was still, like, you're not gonna throw the baby out with the bathwater when Matthews is 20 years old or 21 years old, whatever. But like, by the time they lost to Tampa Bay, like, all right, like, let's get a move on here. And
by the time they lost to Montreal, it should have been over when they lost to Montreal.
Oh my god,
seriously,
that was crazy. But okay, so the DNA has to change, and then when they asked him, will they be offered contracts, and Brad did not say yes.
Mm-hmm.
Even though, so John Tavares said, okay, it's moving in a positive direction. But the question wasn't, is John Tavares going to be offered a contract? Is both. We clearly know they're going to offer John Tavares a contract. So the non-committal answer was about Mitch Marner. And I think that was kind of a shot across the bow at Darren Ferris and all of his minions who are DMing people and accosting people in public and on golf courses. Like, this is over. We're done here. Mitch, you want to come back for $10 million? Fine. Maybe. But otherwise, nuh-uh. Absolutely not.
I don't think they care about Mitch Marner anymore. I think they're just as done as potentially he is with. I think they're just as done with him as we are. Like think about how much like oxygen that guy, like, he can be the greatest teammate in the room or whatever, but like think about how much oxygen that guy sucks up. Every time he steps in front of a microphone, he fights with the media, basically. And Leafs PR has to be there to, like, Leafs PR is 3 guys. Then usually when the room is open.
And an intern.
Yeah, 3 guys and an intern, but they, like, 3 main guys. And they're all, like, 6'8" or whatever. It's great. But, and when the room is open, usually they have one guy, like they usually have, like, they're all roving around to make sure that the questions are on the up and up. When Mitch speaks, all 3 of them have to be there, basically, to wrap it up. Like all 3 of them have to be there to manicure, because they know that this guy is probably going to say something stupid, like we're kind of like gods in this town or something, when Nikola scores as many goals in one game that he has in the entire playoffs.
Oh my God.
Like it's, so this guy, again, it keeps coming back to, but like, I am so freaking glad, and I can't believe it took until he literally wasn't on the team anymore for a member of the Leafs to finally criticize members of the core, and specifically Marner. Like Rod Brind'Amour, the Panthers went down, no, the Panthers, the Hurricanes went down 3-0. Brind'Amour got to the podium and basically was like, we can't have the rookies being the best players on the team.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that don't seem as engaged. There's a lot of guys that didn't seem to bring it tonight. I cannot even imagine. And
the crying and the belly aching if Craig Berube did that.
I can't even, like, Keefe said, I don't think these guys were engaged as much or executed as much or whatever. And then he had to immediately walk it back the next day. And he had to have a conversation with Austin Matthews that was captured on All or Nothing, like where he basically had to coddle him and say, I'm sorry, Austin. I didn't mean to be so mean to you. Like, it's ridiculous.
I feel better about the direction of this hockey club after Brad's press conference, because it's clear that he's identified this is not going to cut it. And I worked with his AGM, Derek Clancy. Derek Clancy's patience for that kind of behavior that you just spelled out is less than 0. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen him tell a player to stop being a bitch.
Good.
To his face.
He should have said it more.
My guess is there's going to be some changes. I think William Nylander's going to stay. I think Austin Matthews is going to stay.
Of course.
I think Morgan Riley, quite frankly, is going to stay.
He doesn't want to leave, so he's going to stay.
Right. And
he's got no move clause.
Matthew Nyes is certainly going to stay. And I think that's the guy. First of all, do you know how quickly I'd be putting a letter on that kid's jersey? Like, in September, him and Chris Tanev, here are the letters.
Remember how Marner and Matthews had to alternate the A?
Insane.
Like, it's just absurd.
Feelings. But yeah, so that's kind of where we're at. I feel better about it, and it'll be interesting to see. I expect Easton Cowan will play in a middle 6 role next year. Mm-hmm. I expect that Ben Danford will have a good AHL year. The Leafs have no need to rush him. I am certainly hoping that Steven Lorentz gets signed, and that at least 1 or 2 of Kampf, Robertson, Yarncroc, and Domi are traded. Mm-hmm. I'd like to see a scenario where maybe Nick Robertson and something else gets traded for Mason Marchment, because I think a third line of Mason Marchment, John Tavares, and somebody else, Easton Cowan, would be a royal pain in the butt to play against. But that's kind of all I have to say about that.
The prodigal son returns, Mason Marchment. I remember watching Mason Marchment at the rookie tournament in 2017, and he looked like Bambi on ice. That man could barely skate. And now look, he's about to get eliminated from the Western Conference Final. Everyone's dream.
And
amazing. With that, we are done. Before my laptop explodes. So, Rachel, before we head out, is there anything you would like to leave our lovely listeners with? Potentially, because this could be, think about it, by the time we talk next week, the Cup final could be solidified. You're right, it will have started.
Potentially will have started, yeah.
I was going to say, like, solidified. No, like, it will almost certainly have started. So, yeah. Without knowing...
with my whole chest, go Oilers, because I do not want to see that dumb income state tax-free state win again, and I desperately want to see the Oilers, specifically Connor McDavid, win the Stanley Cup. I just don't want to, I just am tired of dealing with Florida's nonsense. Mike doesn't like Edmonton, so
I don't like Edmonton. I cannot bring myself to it. Even my best friend at work is born and bred in Alberta. You know, wears Oilers
I
socks.
just think it'll eliminate the whole like really stupid narrative of like, oh, Canada, it's not Canada's game because they haven't won a cup. Your team wouldn't have won a cup without all the Canadians, so shut your mouth.
But Rachel, David Staples would be happy.
Oh, true.
And I just can't get on board with that. I just can't. I cannot sanction that. So,
no, I'm still going. I'm Oilers. I have too many ties to that team.
All right, comeback of the year for the Stars. Let's go, baby. And
I would cheer for the Stars at that point. I'm not cheering for the Panthers.
Oh no, like go Stars all the way. Stars all the way. All right, we will be back next week. Stay sweet for us. Goodbye.